Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Stephen Haggerty. Today I'm joined by the founder and CEO of Bump Club and Beyond, Lindsay Pinchuk. How are you, Lindsay?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Thank you so much for joining me on here and thank you for your time.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
always welcome. Let's jump straight into this then. And I guess the easiest thing to start off with is if you can give us an overview of what Bump Club and Beyond is and does.
Yeah, so Bum Club and Beyond I started Bum Club and Beyond when I was expecting my daughter. She's turning 10 next week, so it's so crazy that it's been almost 11 years since I started
It's a
Bum Club.
great business anniversary to keep track, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I just think of my daughter, and that's how we know how many years Bone Club's been in business. But when I became pregnant with her, I knew that I wanted community, that I needed some support. None of my friends were pregnant at the same time as me. They all ended up being pregnant at the same time as me, but I was just the first. And I said to my husband, I have to find some support somewhere. And there really was nothing for expectant moms. So I went to a couple of businesses in the community and we hosted a workout, we hosted a shopping event. And at the time, you have to remember there was no business Facebook pages. Instagram didn't exist. I don't even think that LinkedIn was a thing. And if it was, it wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
So it was just a very different social stratosphere. And I really used my own connections and my network to say, hey, are you expecting? You should come join these events. And we ended up getting over 50 people at each of the first two events. And it was very clear that expectant moms like me wanted community. So from there, we expanded what we were offering, and I started hosting educational dinners. And my background is in marketing and advertising. At the time, I was an executive at the Hearst Corporation, and I started reaching out to various brands, and they wanted to sponsor the events, and they wanted to get involved. And so that was really how it got started. And then from there, we really started doing events for parents as well. Once my daughter was born, all the moms started having their babies, and they were like, well, what's next? You can't leave us hanging. And we really have grown from there. Like I said, with my background and my connections, we started working with brands such as Nordstrom, Target, The Honest
Amazing.
Company. They started hiring us really to gain access to our audience. Our audience is one of the most engaged, fantastic communities that you could ever imagine. They really trust us. They trust me. I have put my face on this brand. And for the last 10 years, we really have become, a source that connects expectant parents and parents with the best products, resources, information, and each other. And normally outside of COVID, we do that through thousands of premier events in person and our online community. Like I said, we have a very robust and active community on Facebook, on Instagram. We have Facebook groups that we utilize so that the expectant moms and moms can talk to one another.
Amazing.
And it really has grown from there. And in 2019, my company was acquired by Advantage Marketing Solutions. And for me, this was a partnership to hopefully grow and scale and expand what we're doing, and really reach millions of more parents and parents to be across the country.
Incredible. And congratulations on the acquisition
Thank
last
you.
year. For you, obviously, the last 10 years, you mentioned it earlier, but when you first started, there wasn't the online social side of things. So obviously, over the last 10 years, huge things have changed. Huge things have adapted. For you, as the business owner, as the founder, how was going through those changes in those earlier stages of having that growth and getting those, the members in? And obviously nowadays I wouldn't say it's easier because there's more noise now, but back then I feel like it could have been more, it probably was easier to focus, right?
Yeah, it's different. So early on in Bump Club, we really focused on guerrilla marketing tactics. It was a very, I don't want to say it was easy, but we went to maternity stores locally and we put out our cards, and we partnered with a lot of local businesses, small businesses, and many of which sadly are not in existence anymore. There are no maternity stores, which to me, that was like when Bump Club started, that was Bump Club's bread and butter. That was where we got all of our, we don't really call them members, but everyone who kind of joined our
Hmm.
community came from maternity stores. It was those women who were walking in at 13, 14 weeks pregnant. They were newly out pregnant. and they were buying a pair of jeans, and the people at the cash register were saying, "Oh, and you should check out Bump Club and Beyond." And that is really where kind of our efforts honed in on finding new customers at first. And then it was very much word of mouth. We were the only ones in Chicago that were doing this, but we were doing surveys, we were asking for referrals, we were rewarding referrals. It was very, very grassroots. And now, from the adaptation, it was more just learning and keeping up with what was being developed and how things were changing on social media and the new products that were coming out. And I think that was like the biggest challenge as a business owner. You have so many things on your plate. And so really to keep up with those changes was kind of a challenge at first. But I have personally learned so much by doing that. And I've never taken a class on social media, and I am the person who has grown our social media and who deals with our social media on a regular basis. And that I'm incredibly proud of. And now we do have help. I have an outside agency who helps with our paid social now. But now I look at social media as really a vehicle to drive mass amounts of people into our business. And, I think with the right budgets and with the right partners, it really can help a business thrive when you do it right. So I think it's a good thing now, but I do wish, I really truly and sincerely wish that there was still kind of that mix of the social and the grassroots.
Like that human to human connection when, like you said, people are going into those stores and those store managers or employees are really discovering who that person is at that moment. And
and our grassroots efforts have just changed basically because business has changed and the landscape of small business has changed. We do a ton to support small business. Even still, we are always trying to highlight and focus small business, especially minority owned and women owned businesses. But it just is a different landscape than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about team then, because, you started this business off from a problem that you wanted to solve because you had that problem. You wanted to find the network, you wanted to get in those sort of conversations, and you've done exceptionally well over this. How did you grow the team to help support you, to help grow the business, to sort of develop that trust that they could deliver the same sort of value and message that you wanted to have?
So initially, the very first employee I hired was someone who came to me. She was right out of grad school, and she was like, I need experience. I've only ever been a camp counselor, and she was a referral. And she was like, please give me a chance. And I always just find that when that is the situation, those do end up being the best employees. And, and she was an amazing employee. She started with me running errands, and she grew up to, being our events manager. She was with us for, I want to say like 6 or 7 years before she moved on. And from there, and really when I hired her, my goal was, she started hourly and she was running errands for me at first. And my goal was really just to pay her. And so I worked my butt off to bring in enough sponsors so that I could hire help. And I knew I needed help. You can't do everything on your own, and you have to know when to delegate. And I knew I needed that help and that assistance. And I was able to train her, and she ended up, like I said, being a great employee. And ironically, when I think of my other 3 core long-term employees, each of them also came to me and said, I've been a part of Bump Club, or I've seen Bump Club, and I want to be a part of this team. And 2 of them actually were with me from the very beginning as well, I would say for the last 8 years. And recently, because of the whole virtual learning and teaching their kids at home, had to take a step back. But those are employees of mine, like I said, that they wanted to be along for the ride and they believed in what we were doing. And so I know it's hard to always find people who seek you out for employment, but I do think that those people are very special. And those are the people who have the passion for the brand. And, Bump Club has also allowed me to solve, I think, a big problem for women, which is we've been able to employ moms who want to work and who need a little bit of flexibility. And, we have had executives and, sales directors who have been working full-time, salaried positions for us while being moms and doing an amazing job at both. And we've also, pre-COVID, when we were hosting events in multiple cities across the country, we were able to hire hourly employees. They were moms who wanted just a little bit of something for themselves. And it allowed us this platform to employ moms who wanted to stay in the workforce.
Yeah.
And so it solved a lot of problems.
And I'm guessing from your side of thing, these people are already in your community. They completely get your brand message. Just like you were 10 years ago when you started it. You know, they had the problem, and you guys are solving that problem, or helping solve that problem anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to talk about it because events is such a big part of your business that 2020 kind of threw a little bit of a curveball in terms of the industry. How did you handle that? Because here in the UK, it was literally overnight, you know, on a Monday, you know, you could have events, on the Tuesday you couldn't. How did you handle that, and sort of what was your go-to? I mean, I can imagine you just being like, right, let's get into solution mode here.
So we did. So this happened, and it happened, like you said, overnight. It was an overnight situation. I want to preface by saying we're incredibly lucky that we have, well, events are a very large part of our business. We have always maintained a digital footprint, and we have always maintained an online presence, which there are about a handful of companies in my space who did not, and those companies did not make it through COVID. So, you know, I do feel very lucky, and I think it just goes to show that you really have to diversify, because something like this, I don't think was ever imaginable to anyone, and it turned a lot of businesses upside down.
I think it was a big wake-up call for a lot of businesses to force themselves to be that online presence, and unfortunately, like you said, for some it was probably a little bit too late.
Yeah, and I mean, we had that, you know, we had the background, and we've been doing it, so we just were able to enhance it. But what happened for us was we were supposed to execute a 300 store event with Target on March 21st. It was our first scaled event with the Target Corporation. We've been working with them for 7 years. And before COVID was really like a thing, around March 1st, when there were rumblings about it, we knew that Target was not going to allow us to go into their stores on March 21st. And so immediately our team went into solution mode, and we came up with a way to pivot and create the event experience online for our audience. There had already been a lot of money invested in this program, both from a promotional standpoint and from, just an internal execution standpoint. And we didn't want to let anyone down, especially the client, our customers, and the guests at Target. So we went to them and we said, let's try to do this online. And we made a quick pivot. The event series kicked off with a webinar, which it always was going to, on March 8th. And instead of going in store 2 weeks later, what we ended up doing was we ended up working with all the brands and executing a series of live informational events on our Facebook platform. And it ended up being over the course of like 5 or 6 weeks. There was also a sampling component to that, where the guests were supposed to be able to go into the store on March 21st and pick up these gift bags. And what we were able to work out with our fulfillment was we were able to send them direct to home. And Amazing. So we ended up sending over 10,000 bags direct to home in a matter of 4 weeks. And we still actually, that's been since end of May was when we stopped sending the bags. And I'm still getting messages on every platform, even my personal Instagram and Facebook, asking if people can get a bag. So that was really the first foray into pivoting for Bump Club. On March 13th, I went online when it was very clear that we were shutting down. And I said, as a founder, as a CEO, we are going to stand by you. We are going to be here to help you through this. We are not abandoning you. Just because we can't meet in person doesn't mean we can't meet. It doesn't mean our community is going away. It's not. Basically overnight, I would say over the weekend, we ramped up a whole host of resources. We have a COVID page on our website. When you go on bumpclubandbeyond.com now, I think it's the second slide, and you click on it and it gives a whole host of resources, like online resources, classes, movie lists, family TV shows you can watch together. And at the time, I think we thought, okay, this was going to be like 2 weeks. I don't think we ever would have imagined that we were still doing this now.
So 6 months on or something?
Yeah. And so we ended up taking like our workouts, our play dates, and our music classes all online as well, doing Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives. We've been interviewing moms just for like pure entertainment, like celebrity moms and influencer moms on our platforms as well. And we've turned our in-person educational events into webinars. And so I don't want to say like this has been like a horrible time for so many, but it has been a big eye opener for Bump Club, because for so long we would get people from, Dubuque, Iowa saying, can you host a Bump Club event in Dubuque? And like, we were such a small team that was just not going to happen. We were based in Chicago and Austin and Minneapolis. And this has really showed us that we have a platform and we can absolutely do what we're doing online in terms of an education standpoint. I do hope that one day we will get back to meeting in person, because that is, really why I started Bump Club to begin with. But I think that when we do, we will continue doing things in this way online, so that anyone can be involved, no matter where they are. Any parent can get this information and, and not feel like they are missing out, because this absolutely has showed us that we can do both.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I was really curious about to find out from you specifically, because you've been around for 10 years and, you've got through so many bumps and troughs along the way, I'm sure, sort of when social media first got onto the scene. I'm sure that was quite an interesting development for you guys. But now, obviously, in 2020, there's a lot more noise online, and there's a lot more groups and support groups popping up all the time. Two questions is, how do you make sure you still get heard? How do you make sure that Bump Club still sort of pushes forward and grows nicely? And on the flip side is, how do you handle and how do you take it when sort of perhaps competitors set up and maybe they were in Bump Club or something like that? Because I'm sure that's happened.
Yeah. So the first question, how do we continue on and get kind of stand out about from the noise? It's always been very important to me that we maintain this level of trust with our audience. And by putting my face and my team's faces on this brand, really has shown that there are actual people behind this company. It's not just writers or ghostwriters or, and we have really built this level of trust with our audience, and we have conversations with them like online. And there are a lot of times that if someone messages the Bump Club Instagram, while we do have people who help, there are a lot of times that I answer and I'll write that it's me. I'll say, and I'll sign it. And I think that just that personable connection,
isn't it? Yeah.
And, just going on these Facebook Lives, even when thousands of people watch, I think that it's showing that it's showing up, and it's really showing up for this audience. And, we also maintain a group of experts that we tap into for a lot of our information, which I think is incredibly important. There's a lot of noise in the mom space. And I always say that just because I have the letters MOM after my name doesn't mean that I am an expert in everything. Mm-hmm. And while I can speak to, my own experiences as a mom, when it comes to things like nutrition or medical questions, even sleep advice, like I can answer as Lindsay Pinchuk, like this is what I did as a mom, but I cannot offer that expert advice. I'm not a registered dietitian. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a PhD. And we tap into those experts to provide that information. And I think that has also shown our audience how much we care about them.
Yeah. And that in itself gives you such a great level of trust as well.
And there are so many influencers out there now, so many that are doing great things, but there are so many that, share misinformation. Mm-hmm. And that's not good either. And so, we follow the American Academy of Pediatrics, and we really make sure that what we're putting out there is correct. And we go to great lengths to let our audience know that. And then in dealing with competitors, so I haven't had this in a while, but I will say, early on I did have this. I actually had this to a point where there was someone who wanted to join the business with me, and she ended up like ripping off my whole company.
Oh wow! Join the business as in like a partnership type thing.
Yes, and we were in talks about it, and she had an NDA in front of her, and she ended up saying, like, oh, I can't, I'm not going to do this. And then like she popped up on a call with like a group of, in our industry, there was like a conference call about like Pregnancy Awareness Month or something like that. And she popped up on it, and I went and I found it, like she legitimately like used the verbiage from my website. So she was,
Not cool.
not cool. We gave her a cease and desist, and while it made me crazy, it absolutely did. The
That
lessons that
moment you saw her face pop up on that screen,
yes.
you
And
saw
no, it
red.
was a conference call because at the time
Ah,
we didn't have screens. Like
oh
it
yeah, of
wasn't, we didn't
course.
do this at the time. But it was her, and there were a few others along the way as well. That honestly, and I tell entrepreneurs this all the time, you have to shut it out
Hmm.
and you cannot pay attention. You need to stay par for the course and you need to do you, and you need to not worry about what someone else is doing. I do believe that karma comes back around big time. And look where I am right now. Like I sold my business and I'm still running my business, and my brand is out there and is one of the most recognized brands in the parenting space. So, I think that it's really important to just tune it out and
Yeah,
not focus your energy on that and hating that and like getting frustrated about that, but really just focusing your energy on growing your business and what you can do for you. And it's so hard. I admit
complete.
that. It's so hard.
Completely agree. And I'm sure in your industry you've seen so many people attempted and so many people struggle with that side of things as well. I do think that you just got to focus on your own lane and really just hammer down in terms of what you want to achieve in your own personal and business life. I'm really curious to know about the acquisition. Obviously, we don't have to get into details, but that the thought process for you, because this is such a business that is tied to you. It's such a business that it is your baby and literally your baby. How were those conversations and sort of the thought process for you to go through that process of going, actually, yeah, this is something we need to do to sort of, I'm guessing this is kind of what you went through. This is what we have to do to get to that next level.
Yeah. So I knew that I always wanted to do this. It was a goal for me that by the time we were celebrating 10 years that we would do this. I actually wasn't seeking out, but I had three companies in the same like 6 weeks that sought me out on
Always
LinkedIn.
the
It
way.
was kind of crazy because all of a sudden I was like managing all of these conversations and I was like, where did this come from? But for me, one of the companies really wanted to acquihire. They wanted to hire me and they wanted to dissolve my brand. And I knew that that was not what I
Hmm.
wanted. There was another company that was not a fit. And the reason that I ended up moving forward with Advantage Marketing was because they wanted not just my brand, but they wanted me. And they made that very clear in all of our conversations that they wanted the expertise that I bring in the parenting space. They didn't have that. Part of why they approached me was because they were working with Target and Beauty, and we were
Yeah.
working with them in Baby, and they really wanted to expand their offerings at Target as well. And we were able to help do that. With Baby, you can't just like go into a retailer like Target and like build it and expect people to come.
Hmm.
It can't come off as a sales pitch in Baby. It really has to be from a trusted source.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the fact that they wanted me and the brand, and the fact that they said to me, you will still maintain your voice. We want it to be business as usual. We don't want to compromise you. Um, that to me was a huge selling
They
point
were
for
saying all the
me
right things.
to move forward with this
Yeah.
company. And so, ultimately I knew that I had kind of reached as far as I could go with this. We never accepted outside funding. So I never fundraised. I didn't have any investors. This was all I knew. We were profitable, and we were profitable, on our own accord. But I knew in order to take it to the next level and really be able to bring what we do to so many more people,
Hmm.
that we were going to need a partner in doing it. And Advantage did offer more of a partnership. And they said, we want to partner with you, versus we want to take you over and,
Yeah.
sell you off. And,
Different language.
yes, different language. And that's why I chose them to move forward.
Amazing. I love how it was in your plan as well that you wanted to do it by your 10-year anniversary and you achieved that.
Well, thank you. But you have to remember too, like I love educating parents and parents to be, and I don't know that I'll ever stop doing that, but I am also not having more babies. So I have two girls, they're 7 and 10, they're turning 7 and 10 this month. And I'm not really in it anymore. I'm not
Mm,
alongside our audience. And so my involvement and my perspective is very different than it was even 5 years ago.
yeah.
And I do bring a level of expertise just from being in this industry for as long as I have, and helping moms solve and give them tips and tricks. And but at the same time, I'm not using the products anymore. And I want to, now that I'm not really in it, I kind of think I have like that shelf life, and I want to be more a part of like the strategy to ensure that that we are not compromising our information, and that we are still supporting this audience and our clients, our brands, in the way that we have been for the last 10 years.
No, it makes perfect sense. How did it feel though when you signed the bit of paper, when sort of the deal was done, it was public, and the next stage of that, I guess you stepping into that strategic type role, could be enabled?
So it was a big relief once it went through, because it's like, it's so much work on top of the work that you're running a company, but then you're also trying to make this deal. So to me, that was a big relief. And, since then, like I'm going to be very honest, it has not been all like rainbows and unicorns. Like it's a tough transition. And, it's a tough transition finding the balance of maintaining Bump Club's voice and, and still really giving this information and really making sure we're not compromised, but also folding into a very large company that has thousands and thousands of employees and a lot of, hands involved. And so it's really been trying to navigate that and figure that out. Year one was definitely a struggle, and I would never sugarcoat that. Year two has been much better. And I think that we're finally finding our footing and within the Advantage family, and hopefully setting up for a really great year three.
And I guess a little bit of rediscovering your own personal identity as well, because it's been so linked to Bump Club, and for you to be able to take that next step, you probably have to go through a little bit yourself.
Yeah.
What's next for you guys then? What's next for Bump Club? What's next for, the big plans that I'm sure, no doubt, that you've got in store?
So, I think that, like I said earlier, this has shown us that we can really do anything, and that that parents really can really trust us. And, I hope what's in store right now is that we are going to continue to support our families and parents to be throughout this pandemic. And, that's kind of the immediate need. And I don't ever want anyone to feel like we're going to abandon them, because we're not. This is also probably the last demographic, the last group of people that will end up leaving their homes when it's safe to kind of go back to normal. Sure. This, expectant parents are very vulnerable at the moment. And so we just really need to make sure that they're mentally and physically prepared for this new chapter in their lives. Once we are able to start getting out and about more, I do hope that we go back to doing our community events in person, our play dates, our workouts. We were just starting to get them to a point where we had big sponsors that were sponsoring them, and we were doing them in like 15 cities.
Yeah.
I see us doing them nationally. I would like to bring back our part-time mom workforce and be able to do that. And that's why I started Bump Club, was that in-person community, and I don't want that to ever get lost. I think that this target,
anyone could have like even the most amazing online community, having that offline aspect as well really just ties everything together.
And I look at like our pictures from our events, and I'm like, oh my God, I miss this so much. Yeah. And then I think too that like our Target partnership has shown us what we could do in store. And I do think and hope that we will, move forward with that in a bigger way. And hopefully we will do more programs like that for more retailers and really become a household name. I think we are really set and poised to do that. And this year has been a really awesome learning experience, but it's been a really wonderful growth experience too.
I love that. And I have no doubt that you're sort of setting yourself up for another 10 years of huge success in terms of what Bump Club do. And I suspect I'll probably start seeing you here more in the UK and start hearing your name. Yeah, that would be cool. And I'll be like, I spoke to her before they were in the UK. That would be very cool. But my final question for you, Lindsay, is how can people find out more about Bump Club then? How can people find out more about you and the story?
Yeah, of course. So you can go to bumpclubandbeyond.com. We have tons of great content if you're a parent or parent-to-be. We also have a free community you can join. When you join it, you get access to over 1,500 discounts with some of our favorite products and brands across the country, which is great. I think one of the best places to engage with us and find out more about us is on Instagram. It's at Bump Club and Beyond. or on Facebook, which is Bump Club and Beyond. I personally also I have a public a public Instagram profile, and a lot of people find me there as well. That is definitely more of a reflection of me than it is of Bum Club. But I, share my life as a mom, my life as an entrepreneur. I share more of my viewpoints there, and that's just at Lindsay Pinchuk. And again, it's public, so you can find me there and you can engage with me there.
Love it, Lindsay. Thank you so much for sharing, and once again, congratulations on growing Bump Club to where it is now. And I look forward to seeing
thank
what
you
guys
for
do.
having me.
No, you're more than welcome anytime. And thanks everyone else for listening and watching. This has been Founders 365.